I had never followed Andrew Tate, though I heard his name mentioned many times, so I had no first-hand information about him before now. A lot of the things I heard were negative, but obviously, to be so famous, he must have a lot of supporters too. Perhaps most importantly, some of the negative comments came from people whose opinions I value. However, I never got into the details with them. Then, over a year ago, I saw he was included in a panel on the Just Pearly Things channel. I've seen her channel a few times, and I think she does a good job and generally makes sense. So I finally watched the video, which took over 3 hours. Tate said a number of interesting things. Some I agreed with, some I disagreed with, and some gave me a negative impression, but when referring to the same topic later in the video, he may say something that clarified things so I would agree with it, at least somewhat. But here's the thing, whether I agreed or not, he presented good arguments and made me think. I love that kind of discussion. I suspect, even in areas where I disagree, he may be the kind of person where further discussion can, at the very least, lead to clarity and understanding of different views. But I just saved this video for almost a year as I worked on other things. I knew it was going to take a lot of work to go through a 3-hour video, then cut it down to just the parts I might use, and then have to pull clips that were on the same topic, but scattered throughout the video. So my analysis is kind of about looking at his views, my reactions, then how my reaction may change as he presents more information. And lots of things would still benefit from further discussion, instead of jumping to conclusions. I'm not sure yet how many of the things covered in the video I'll react to, but I'm going to start with one topic for now. That is the issue of a man's status and how important it is. As you will see, Tate thinks it is extremely important and, at least basically, I agree.
What men are interested in life, not just in their relationship, but in their life as a whole, is status. I don't think most people understand, especially women, how competitive the male world is and how competitive it is for status. This is why men do everything they do. Men buy the faster car, not to drive any faster, because of status. It's why we want a bigger house. We don't give a shit where we live. It's because of status. It's why I want to go to the gym and get big and strong, because of status. Everything we do is about status. It's why I want the better job. It's why I want more money. It's why I want to be respected. So what's the number one thing we want our female to give us? Status. That's what we want. So she can give us status by being beautiful. That's one thing she can do. But another thing she could do is if I turn up home and I come home with my boys and she says, I'll cook you all a steak. That's status. That's all my boys going, Ross, you just been out all night and she's here and she's going to cook for all of us and she'll clean up and tidy up. Boom. That's the kind of girl a man's not going to want to lose because it makes him look good. That's what men want. Status.
I was interested that he first referred to the physical appearance of a girlfriend. This is something I've seen many men start with and, unfortunately, end with. Thus their over-fascination with rating women from 1 to 10. But he went on to talk about how the way a woman treats her man gives status, which doesn't require the woman to be beautiful. This is a much better perspective. Sure, a beautiful woman who does these things has an advantage over just a pretty one who does the same things. But the pretty woman has an advantage over the beautiful one if the beautiful one doesn't do them. Anyway, to Andrew Tate, the most important thing to a guy is the status he gets. I can't be sure of some of his details. For example, does he mean a man wants as much status as possible, no matter what? If so, I would disagree. Here is how I look at it. Yes, men want status, but that doesn't necessarily mean every man is constantly trying for more status than others around him. Many are quite content to just have a basic level of status, or perhaps I should call it respect. I was never interested in being the highest status person in the room. I was quite content to be a person people knew they could depend on and know I do a good job. At the same time, I sure didn't want something to happen where I would lose status. A woman who uses poor judgment in how she treats her man in public can cause a big loss of respect or status, and it is poison to a relationship. So, I don't think all men are some sort of power-hungry fiends, though some are, including in their relationships. But pretty much all men want a basic level of respect or status, and whatever amount they have, they don't want to lose it. Let me give you an example. In my job, it was common for the overall boss to talk to new employees, and in my case, with a rather specialized job, the boss would usually make a comment like, "I really don't know anything about your field." But then they'd end up telling me how to do my job that they had no understanding of. That's taking away status because it is disrespectful. It's what bosses often do in their need to establish a meaningless dominance, a status seeker, which is negative. A good leader doesn't do that. Leaders get respect in return because they are respectful while still being in control when necessary. So, sure, if a man can afford a fancy car, they may buy it, but not so much that they will go into debt to buy it. And many men who can afford better realize they don't need it and can better apply that money elsewhere. At least that's what I do. By the way, that example of a man's woman preparing steak for him and his friends and thus getting status, that's great. But I submit if he just showed up by himself after being out with guys quite late, he is still going to personally have a status need filled when his wife makes a special effort to get something just for him.
This is a very serious point because the Western world has collapsed in real time and it's a failed society. And one of the reasons it's a failed society is because of the over-sexualization, especially of females as a whole. If a woman comes up to me and goes, "I'll be the best sex you ever had," I am fucking revolted.
I agree with his observation about the over-sexualization of women. In fact, I've talked about it in other videos before in different ways. With the advent of the birth control pill, combined with modern feminism, which promoted the nonsense that men and women are essentially equal in all ways, society started falling apart. While complaining about the double standard between men and women when it came to sexual activity, their solution was to tell women they could behave like men. Well, they can do that, but the results just hurt them. As I pointed out before, it made it where women lost a lot of control over a relationship because, in the past, if a guy got out of line, not only would she dump him, but the word would quickly get around to all the high-quality women, and they wouldn't date him either. But as soon as women started acting like men, they ended up being afraid of not getting dates. Because if they dumped the guy, the results of modern feminism meant there are so many others who were available, so the guy doesn't care. Suddenly men had more control. But he follows that statement with something that will probably tick off a lot of women.
I don't want the best sex I've ever had. I want you to be pure and a virgin. You should know what sex is. Cook my fucking dinner. Shut up.
He did go into a bit of hyperbole, saying the girl shouldn't even know what sex is and be a virgin. It's another area I'd like some clarification. I mean, is he saying he's only interested in virgins, but then has sex with them and, at some point, moves on? If a guy is pretending he wants a relationship leading to marriage when he really doesn't expect to, that's a problem. And worse, when he then acts like any woman who got fooled by another man before Tate got interested in her, and then Tate's ticked off about it. But at this point, I can't be sure of how much of his statement was hyperbole and what wasn't. There was also the comment of, "Cook my dinner and shut up," which probably offends many women, and it is one of the things that bothered me too. But as I went on listening to him, some of those comments are clarified, so we'll see about that. Here's another thing I suspect many women won't like, but I think they are overreacting.
So you have to be very careful as a female with all of your actions, all of your interactions with your boyfriend or when you're looking for a boyfriend, etc., and say, am I going to make my man look better by doing X or look worse?
Again, he's emphasizing status, and the women should be trying to make him look good. Many women probably don't like the idea that their job is to make the man look good. But I agree with Tate on this. After all, if he is correct about the importance of status to a man, why on earth would a good woman ignore that fundamental need a man has? It doesn't mean the woman is a doormat. Tate will elaborate on this a bit later. Women may also object to an example Tate provides next.
Simple things. I've had endless arguments about girls' nights out, right? Oh, you're insecure, da-da-da. It's not about insecure. I don't give a fuck if no man talks to you all night long. I don't care if you're going out and you're going to an all-girl club. I don't care. I know that when my boys say, oh, all the girls are going out, and I say, not my girl, she stays home. I look good. That's it. She stays home. She doesn't go out. She doesn't want to go out without me. That's status. It's not about the night out. It's about the status of being the man in the house.
This is a bit different, and there can be legitimate differences of opinion. After all, now it is no longer about only making your man look good or not saying something in public that loses him status in front of his friends. Now the woman is being expected to give up something she wants to do, something men often do themselves. So, a big double standard. But he is right that if the woman doesn't go, the man looks good. However, Tate doesn't stop there.
Obviously, I'm not saying blatantly disrespect your woman, right? She's your woman, she's your queen, she's the most important thing in the world to you. She needs to be treated in a way that she feels that, right?
So now he is talking about treating your woman like a queen. Maybe we need to discuss his views in more detail before jumping to conclusions. Here's another statement subject to controversy.
Why do men cheat? Most women don't know. You'll see them all the time. Why do men cheat? Oh, because men are just stupid. And why do men fuck girls uglier than their main chick? Why do men do all this stuff?
They had
Do you know
a
why?
moment.
I'll tell you why. Let's go back to the first thing I've been saying this whole time. Status. Yeah, that's my chick. She's home. Took this one home. Yeah, I got that one. She's chasing me.
That's
Status. But it's stupid to females. I get it. But that's the male world because sexual access is an easy indicator of status. So that's one of the reasons they do it, right? So you have to go back into the baseline of why men even cheat in the first place. I'm telling you, if you're a woman, the smartest thing you can do is look after your man, make him not want to cheat, be perfect. But there's going to be a time across a 20-year marriage you might just need to be a little bit blind.
At first it sounds like he is justifying cheating, and to some extent he may be, but maybe not. He is definitely describing how some men think and their biological drives. For many, it certainly gives status. Think about all the men you may watch on YouTube who pretty much manage to let other men know how a man should act to get more women. My view is, regardless of these natural drives, when you marry, you need to control yourself. That is part of being a man too. But that doesn't mean the basic drives go away. I do like that he said it was an easy indicator of status, rather than a truly important one. This being a reality, he isn't dodging it, but pointing out what women can do to minimize the chance of it happening to them. Sometimes, even if you don't like the way things are, it is best to deal with reality and do things so he is less likely to cheat. Or, I guess you can complain how it is unfair and do things that make it worse. Not a good idea, in my opinion. As for pretending to be blind if he does cheat, I'm not talking about a serial cheater, but the guy who falls short once in, as he says, a 20-year marriage. Every situation will be different, so I sure can't tell any women what to do, but it is something that should be thought about. More about status and how a woman can attract a man to commit.
How would you convince a man it's worthwhile for him to say, that's my wife? Status. That's how you do it. This is a misunderstood hack to men as a whole, is status. If you can convince that man, but by marrying you, his status will increase amongst his peers, he's going to do it. And for anyone out here who disagrees with me, the things men do for status, let's actually analyze how baseline men are. What is status? Status is respect, right? Men kill over respect. Gangs kill each other over respect. A man will smash another man's face in for insulting him. We will die for respect and status. You tell me we won't get married? We'll die for We'll go to the front line of a war, and the only reason we don't walk away and abandon our post as artillery shells rain is because we're afraid of being mocked for being a coward. We'll die for status. So status is what it's all about. It's what it's always been about. If you want a man to marry you, status.
Some good points there, showing how important status is to a man. Maybe a bit oversimplified, especially with gangs, but still good points. And a simple thing to keep track of when you want a good relationship. How many problems would be solved if the woman always considered that one factor? Next, he covers how society has changed.
When society, with this new think, has destroyed all of the baseline humanities and baseline understandings of how men interact with women, and now, all the things we previously understood about what made a good man, what made a good woman, and how we should act together and how we should interact has been erased. Of course men are acting like dickheads, and of course women are doing wrong things, because nothing makes sense anymore. You've taken the chessboard and moved all the fucking pieces around. Nobody gets it. It should be very simple. I'm a man, I work hard, I take care of my woman. I'm the man of the house. She treats me with respect. She would never insult me or raise her voice to me in front of other people. She has a problem. She brings it to me in private. We act as a team. We work together. If we break up, she was a good woman to me. She fulfilled her roles the best she possibly could. I'm still a man. I'm going to take care of her. But all of that is gone.
Feminists will probably say the changes are proper and won't like the I'm the man of the house attitude. But is Tate wrong? I'm certainly not going to say we should go back to a time when women overwhelmingly stayed in the home. At the same time, the change has, I think, caused some problems. And the reason I think that is because of feminists. Because while they started out giving lip service to each woman choosing whether to work or stay at home, at least when the children came, they consistently acted like choosing the latter was the worst, least fulfilling choice. Even little things like changing the Miss or Mrs. designations to the weird Ms. takes away from the importance placed on even being married. I remember a coworker not too many years ago who was very good at her job. She got married and made a point to let people know she did not want to be called Ms. She wanted to be married and raise a family and wanted to be referred to as Mrs. She continued to work until children came along and considered that to be the most important job a person could have. Feminists tend to not view it that way. Or another woman I know who stopped working outside the home when children came. And she does homeschooling because she wants her children to be well educated. And they are really well educated. Yet other women related by marriage to her are quite clear that they can't understand why she doesn't get a real job again. I suspect if it was truly just a matter of women doing what they prefer at any given moment in life without the constant feminist indoctrination, a lot more women would choose to be home with the children. Back to Tate, notice he also says a man is supposed to take care of his wife, even if they break up. Notice he also adds detail about not taking away the man's status, as he specifically says the good woman doesn't insult him or raise her voice to him in public. So, yep, the wife can have her say, but in a way that doesn't take away his status in the eyes of others. And they are a team, which is how I look at it. While I do agree with his view that when the woman is good to you, if things don't work out later, you should still care for her, I also see a problem for those women who got a guy who is a jerk. But women want status too.
Right? Women love the idea of getting status from a man. Mm-hmm. Women love the idea, and this is where it actually gets a bit messy. The waters get muddy because women love the idea of bragging about the man they're with. Mm-hmm. But they can only brag about the man they're with if other women want that man. So you're saying you love women who get cheated, women love getting cheated on. That's not true. But women do not like men that other women don't want. Mm-hmm. If you were to say, look, I got my man, he's perfect, he's rich, he da-da-da-da-da, and every girl in the room would go, I would never touch him. She'd be like, oh, shit. Oh, I don't want him either then. What the fuck
but
is
you
this?
know, can I add on top of that?
But it's true, right? No. Women want men that all the women want.
Again, I'm sure many women won't like the comment about getting status from her man. They'll prefer to say they can get their own status. But, come on. We've all seen the women, even in high school, go after the guy whose parents bought him a nice car or is a star athlete, but not the guy who is really smart. They want to be seen in that car or seen with that top athlete. Of course, this continues on as women choose wealthier suitors. This isn't all bad though. It is smart of a woman, and likely a biological imperative, to seek security. Sometimes it leads to immature choices. But men looking for healthy women, typically measured by beauty, also make immature choices because of that too. It was an interesting point that women don't want men that other women don't want, which may explain why, in high school, the really smart kid can't get a date. But years later, when he's making lots of money, he can. Elsewhere, Tate has talked about the importance of a woman being agreeable, which was also connected to status. An example he gave was if a guy said his favorite car was, say, a BMW. It's best if his woman said the same thing. I know, it seems like a petty thing, and why should a woman deny her own true preferences? That's actually a valid point. But let's listen to Tate go into it deeper. He first points out that the woman, when she was at her peak attraction, was likely doing lots of things.
You've had a very fun life at your peak sexual value from 19 to 24 running around doing X, Y, Z.
Keep that in mind as you listen to this next part.
Now you're with this guy who can't give you the life he knows you've already lived. Part of him feels inferior. His status is damaged because all the shit you did is on Instagram and he ain't the one who gave it to you. And now you're expecting a whole bunch of crap out of him.
Do you see the problem coming up? You eventually end up with a guy you like, but he can't give you what you already had when you were at your most attractive point. Since what you have put on the internet can last forever, or maybe he knows you from the past in school or a job, the guy who already knows he can't give you as much is also well aware that others have already given you what he'd like to give you. That hurts his feeling of status. Which brings us to this little matter of the favorite car.
And now, when he comes and works his ass off and manages to save up and buy a BMW and picks you up, hey, I got a BMW, you go, yeah, I like Mercedes. This is the point you're missing.
I think that's a good point. The guy knows he can't give you what you have had before, but he works hard to give you something special, and the woman can so easily rip out his soul. Let's continue.
It's not about the fucking car. It's about something larger than that. It's about making him feel like he's a man again and that he's in charge.
A woman shouldn't have to make a man feel like a man.
You're sitting here going, I'm an autonomous female. I can fucking like that. But what are you doing? You're damaging the psyche of the man who's trying to love you. Is it worth it for a fucking car brand?
He's right. Is it worth it to not be agreeable, even if you have a different opinion? I know. Lots of women will be taking the view that this is all one-sided, that the man has to be catered to only. But men do, or at least usually should do, the same thing. When a woman asks if some outfit she is wearing looks nice, the guy is almost always going to say yes. Or, a bigger one, if the woman says, I've lost 3 pounds, do I look better? He may not even be able to tell any difference, but he'll say yes. There are lots of things like this that Tate addresses, though I'm not including them in this video. But I might do more. More on agreeability.
When it comes to things like agreement, there is not a single man in the world who's going to say, she's too agreeable. She just agrees with me on it. She agrees with me on all the important things in my life. She's too agreeable. I want someone else. Fuck no. You're completely and utterly wrong on that point. It's a huge point.
I think that may be a bit overstated, but this just might have been a poor choice of words that Tate used. I think what is coming will help clarify things. It's a little confusing because he made an issue about a little thing, like car preference, but in this last clip, he talks about agreeing on the important things.
This idea that, I understand if you're a complete doormat and you set no standards, men might walk all over you. I'm not talking about that.
Ah, so he isn't talking about the woman being a doormat. Still unsure of where he is drawing his lines, but this helps.
I'm talking about agreeability and agreeableness as a whole. Men love the idea of an agreeable woman because it gives status and it makes the man feel like he's a teacher and it makes the man feel in charge and it satisfies his ego.
This is interesting too. Since a man is predisposed to want to be the provider, such agreeability probably would make him feel like a teacher. This fits in with the other stuff Tate says that I'm not including clips about in this video. But yes, I think men like to feel they are leading, including as a teacher. Of course, all this, including feeding his ego, gives him status, at least in his own mind.
And to you, they may be small, little, tiny points, but to him, they're a big deal. If I were to sit, I'm telling you right now, if I were to sit with one of my chicks or whatever, or my chick, and I'll just sit in the Lambo and say, Lambo's the best car of all of them, I prefer the Lambo. And she goes, I don't like that one, da da da. I'm like, listen, I bought them all, and I fucking said this is the best one. Shut up.
That's another of those comments that will tick off feminists. Personally, I don't know that he means he would actually say, shut up. Maybe he does, but I have a feeling it is more of a, why are you being disagreeable thing going through his mind. More elaboration.
It would annoy me because that's my reality. I want her to become part of my reality.
Seems he is saying the man wants to feel he and his woman share the same reality, which is a good thing. But where do you draw the line? Well, at the very least, it seems Tate is saying that when it comes to little things like this, why not just be agreeable? Let's see how he elaborates.
Now, if you have to sit there and agree on a, especially on a subject you don't give a fuck about, right? If it's something you care about and you are very knowledgeable about, if it's ancient Roman history and you have a degree in ancient Rome, then fine, argue the point. But if it's cars or something you don't even give a shit about,
make it easy.
Yeah, you're missing the chance to get points on the scoreboard, an easy free throw, and you're just fucking it up, going, why? Why? The truth is just play the game and win.
So again, he's not saying be a doormat. He is saying you can do things to be agreeable that don't really matter to you. He is saying you can do things to be agreeable that don't really matter to you, but will make a big difference to your man and his feelings of status. As he says at the end, just play the game and win. In the past, women knew how to play the game to get what they want, essentially by making the man happy. Most men, if a woman makes them happy, will want to make their woman happy. Sure, there are control freaks out there. Hopefully you weed them out during the courtship phase. Just as, hopefully, the guy weeds out the women who act one way but change after marriage. No guarantees though, but also no reason to ignore things that would, in the vast majority of cases, work to strengthen your relationship. Relationships are complicated, but it seems to me that too many men and women are too busy being in defense mode. There is much, just in what I've covered so far, that could use further discussion, but what Tate offered is an excellent start. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.